Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. This is Brandon Despia here, and I have a very exciting deck list to show you. Something I haven't seen really at all on YouTube, or really much of anywhere. This is my own Brandon Despia Draco Tail Artmage deck list. And I gotta tell you, considering that I don't see this talked about a lot, this deck is kind of stupid, actually. I think it should be explored more. So what I'm going to show you is a deck list I've been experimenting with in hopes that you guys will look into this and potentially see how far this deck can go. Why do I think this deck is worth talking about? Is a deck using engines, 3 engines. Being able to fit 3 engines is kind of was crazy to me, but the Branded Despia engine can actually go into either Artmage or Dracotail at this point in time very easily through Branded Fusion, which is why it takes up the most cards in my deck right now. And what this offers me is a wide variety of monster removal, spell trap removal, and negation and bouncing, while also being able to have an extremely potent grind game and recursion through all 3 engines that interplay with each other. And I just don't understand why people aren't talking about it too much. And you know, maybe there's a reason for that. I don't know, but I think it's definitely worth going into. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the cards in the deck. This is a 60 card build, and I'm telling you guys right now, this is a 60 card deck. This does not feel like a 60 card deck. I can almost always do something pretty ridiculous. Worst case scenario, still got my 6+ interruptions, and if my opponent doesn't stop me, I'm damn near 10 interruptions. And depending on how your extra deck is going, what you put in your extra deck, you could go even further than that. So let's go right into it. I'm gonna start off with the branded engine first. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. By the way, if you like the content like this, or if you have any suggestions or for the video, I'm more than happy to listen to you. All right, so for the first thing, we're gonna go ahead and talk about Fallen Albaz. Doesn't need an introduction at all. This is one of the main best boys, along with Medius in the deck, to go into your fusion plays. Most of the fusion deck will revolve around requiring Fallen of Albaz, okay? And it is a board breaker written by itself. We have 3 copies of Aluber, the Jester of Despia, to get into our branded fusion or other branded cards. And nothing really to say there. 1 card combo. Branded Fusion itself, by the way, can get into Medius or Malulu through Branded Fusion as being the dark monster that goes with the Albaz. Despian Tragedy, pretty solid card, as well as being banished to get me a card to my hand, or I can use it as recursion from the graveyard by banishing it. 2 Albion, the Shrouded Dragon. We're running 2 instead of 3. Great card to draw cards, set recursion in the graveyard. Another dragon that we can use for fusion summoning. 1 copy of Blazing Cartesia. You can make the argument to run multiple copies of this, more than 1, 2 or 2, maybe even 3, but 2 or 1 is probably the right number. It's depending on how you want to use your monster cards, or how many Minas or anything like that you have in the deck. But this is such a powerful card with Draco Tail, and can even assist in the Medius package as well. Guiding Quem, only need 1 copy. You can run 2 if you have the room for it, and there is room in this deck to make to set that up. But we're just gonna run 1 today. 1 Tri-Brigade Mercurier to get out the Branded Lost. 1 Spriggan's Kit. And now for the spells on the branded side, 3 copies of Branded Opening. 3 copies of Branded Opening. 2 copies of Branded High Spirits. 1 copy of Branded Fusion. 1 Branded in Red. 1 Branded Lost. 1 Branded in White. With so many monsters going to the graveyard, you will be able to definitely access this. And then 1 copy of Branded Retribution, right? One funny thing about Branded Retribution is that you can, depending on the situation, use this to put a spell card in your hand from just to send it away with a cost for another card like the field spell, the Acropolis, on the Artmage side, which is really pretty neat. Now we're going to talk about the Dracotail side, smaller package. We are running one Dracotail Mululu. When it goes to the graveyard, you can, as for a fusion material, you can negate the effects of a face-up monster your opponent controls. Very strong, helps you with board breaking. We're running one copy of Femina, mostly because we have ways of putting it back in our hand multiple times, putting it back in the deck, getting it back. You can make the argument of running multiple copies, like 2 to 3, which I would not mind. This card is actually very broken. And when you're running a deck that has 3 different engines that still revolve around fusion, the argument can be made to run 3. But for this example, we're just going to run 1. And we're running 1 copy of Urgula for the other Dracotail monster. We're not running the other ones. We're not running Pan because Pan's effect is a little bit redundant. We can destroy monsters and bounce monsters pretty easily in this deck. We can banish monsters non-targeting. We can non-target destroy. So we have plenty of things to deal with monsters. What Brandon always had a problem with more than anything was the spell and trap removal. So Urgula gets the slot over Pan for that reason. Then we're running 3 copies of Rahu Dracotail. That's our branded fusion. Definitely Ash bait. And it makes it very hard for our opponent to make a decision on the Ash Blossom, because Ash Blossom on this is a really good decision, but you also leave yourself wide open for a whole bunch of other stuff that you might want that Ash for. And then we're running 1 copy of Ketu Dracotail. You can make the argument for 3 as an opening, and I probably will make another deck list that does not run as much non-engine. The little I am running, and we'll discuss it. But I could probably put that in the sideboard, but we're just running the 1 copy of Ketu Dracotail. Because of the Brandon engine, we can go into Rahu Dracotail we can go into Ketu Dracotail simply by using cards like Branded Fusion to put a Dracotail monster in the graveyard and then set this. So we only really need the 1, and then if we can use our trap, which is the last card, Dracotail Flame, if we need to put this back in the deck if we really, really need to. So it's a very small package, but very potent, and it's easy to access because of the Branded engine. And now we have the Artmage cards. We have a slightly smaller package here. We have 2 copies, not 3, of Medius the Pure. When this card is normal summoned or special summoned, for some people who do not know, you're able to special summon 1 Power Patron from your deck. We're only running the 1. We're running a smaller package. In my mind, when I play this deck, I'm treating this almost like a pseudo Fiendsmith package, where I'm able to just simply slim it down to its smallest parts, and with 1 card be able to go into a whole bunch of removal, interruptions, etc., which is why I really love Artmage. 1 Medius essentially gets you into an on-field Omni-Negate, spell trap removal, a pseudo Forbidden Droplet, and a board wipe, along with a non-targeting destruction if they let this go through. And that's, by itself, this gives you a lot of interruption and the ability to recur them. Also, Medius going to the graveyard for things such as fusion summons off of Femina, Ketu Dracotail, or Branded Fusion, and then reviving this from the graveyard after you use a monster's effect to go into this engine is very strong, and allows you to extend when your opponent does interruptions with things like Veil or Imperm Ash or something like that, as long as it's in the graveyard. So as you can see, we're only using 1 Power Patron Artmage. It's not like we're trying to go into it all the time. We only need to go into it once. Power Patron can be recurred. I can just put this back in the deck through other means. And as you understand from not even just this engine, but from the Draco Tail cards, they have a really strong ability to reuse resources. So I didn't see the need to run 2 Power Patrons, just the 1. For the other monsters, we have 1 copy of Artmage Laterra, which also can bring back Artmages from the graveyard. 1 copy of Feinmel. I love this card so much. You special summon it, draw a card, and it gives you a pseudo Forbidden Droplet effect. You can special summon this by just simply having an Artmage card on the field. And what you're going to want to do, and what I've often done, is when I use this engine to board wipe and do the Omni Negate and all the things I want to do through this engine, I make sure I keep a copy of Latera at my hand so I can special summon it, bring back the Fine Mail, special summon it from my back to my hand, draw a card, and now I have access to a droplet effect again. And then the last card is the Graflair. Graflair is the card that's going to help you go into your place off a field spell and get a lot of advantage. This cannot be destroyed by battle one time, and it has a quick effect, spell trap removal attached to it. For the spells, we are running 2 copies of the Artmage Academic Arcane Arts Acropolis. I'm just going to call it Acropolis from now on. This is a 1-card starter, as well as using any copies of Medius or Graflair. Those are 1-card starters. This will give us an additional normal summon that we can use for Medius, which is really strong in this deck. That means I could use this for Medius and then use the normal summon for a Luber later on, or for Albaz, or even for a Malulu if the situation requires it. It helps fix the situation that many branded players will have when it comes to deciding what should I use my normal summon on. It does lock you into Artmage cards, monsters, or fusion summons, or monsters from your extra deck if you use this, so you want to be careful about that, but typically it isn't really that big of a deal. We're running 2 copies of Artmage Varnish Alteration. Its graveyard effect to negate the attack against an Artmage monster can come into play if your opponent tries to force your battle phase to swing into something like your bird, your power patron. You can use this to negate the attack. I've noticed in my playtesting that people would try to get around the engine by trying to go into the battle phase and swinging into one of my monsters to try to, in order to force interaction when I wasn't ready, and I would just simply banish this card to negate the attack. But this card also can get me a field spell from the deck, which is a 1-card combo, or if the field spell's already up, I can use this to get any Artmage card to my hand. Really, just it's quite crazy. Vandalism Assault is at 2. This searches for Medius to appear, but also provides protection for my field spell. The other effect, be able to change a monster into an Artmage monster, doesn't really come up too much, but this is essentially a 1-card starter as well. We run 1 copy of Artmage Masterwork Succession, which oftentimes can be used as a fusion summon as well, but most of the time you're just using this to get this in the graveyard, and then you'll be able to use its effect in the graveyard to recur your Artmage monsters if you decide to want to, if you need the ability to grind and set up that chain of Artmage cards again. And lastly, we have Artmage Pact Awakening. You're typically going to want this card in the graveyard in order to use its non-targeting destruction effect, as well as bouncing monsters, Artmage monsters back to your hand. But sometimes your opponent will probably hit you with a ton of hand traps, and you can just set this and not give them too many draws off of Mocharmy, for example, and still have a strong play. The goal of this engine is to get access to the Omni Negate abilities of the Artmage Deactorus, along with Nervous Board Wipe. We only really need them to come through once, and that's typically enough to win the game when you're combining that with the power of Brandon and Dracotail. For the non-engine cards, for the non-themed cards, I guess we have the Lubellion and Serenir. That's technically branded. I consider that, something that you don't have to run. So, when you're running packages like these, so I have this on the side. This at least allows me to go into the Red Albion combo and set up something by itself into something like end phase setup branded in red, or if you want to run branded banishment, you can with this deck. Serenir is always a great card to use off of fusions anyway. Honestly, if you was to run this at 3, I would see no problem with it, because it's so good fusing with the Dracotail engine. It's so good using it with branded fusion, and it's a bestial that you can use if you need to occasionally interfere with your opponent's graveyard. But then we're running 3 copies of Book of Eclipse for the non-engine disruption. We're running Book of Eclipse. You don't have to run this. You can side this, but Book of Eclipse is going to be very helpful against a lot of the decks right now, especially the K9 cards or the Vanquish Soul cards. So having this, even though this card isn't as great against something like Malice, against pretty much all the other decks, I think this card is very, very strong. It also doubles as interruption protection when you're trying to resolve an Aluber or a Medius or a Malulu. So you have multiple cards we would like to see resolve, on summon, and they could use an Imperm or a Veiler to try to stop it, and then you can use Book of Eclipse to make them dodge it. You could also use something like a Firmino or a Cartesia too to help dodge it, but another option wouldn't hurt. We're running 2 copies of Forbidden Droplet. We're not running 3 because of the commitment in card economy that we would need in order to take care of multiple monsters on the field, which is why we gave 3 slots to the Book of Eclipse over this. And our non-engine is much smaller in this build because we have so much in-engine ways to deal with multiple threats on the board from the hand, field, or graveyard. We're running 3 copies of Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment in this build can get one of 3 different monsters, Fallen Albaz, Blazing Cartesia, or Medius to Pure, which gives this card additional potency and versatility to go into the Branded engine or the Artmage engine very easily as a 1-card combo, essentially. Obviously with Fusion Deployment, we're trying to get Cartesia to set up something like a Grand Guignol and go into Branded Fusion that way, or set up something else. Or this is another copy of Fallen Albaz if you're for a quick board breaking. If you need to use it for quick board breaking into Fusion, that's totally fine. But what I love using this the most for is to go into the Artmage stuff. So that's typically what I like to go for to get the most value out of it, because it really is just by itself. Fusion Deployment and 1 other spell essentially gets me a whole lot of cards. You get a on-field Omni-Negate, you get a non-targeting destruction, you get 1 spell trap destruction, you get 1 copy, you get 1 extra draw, and you get a pseudo Forbidden Droplet effect. That's a lot for just this card and 1 spell. We're running 2 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust, not 3. Thrust, we have a lot of very powerful spells and traps from all the engines that makes Thrust even more powerful against a lot of decks. This basically is 1 of 3 engines by itself whenever we feel like it. Everyone loves Thrust anyway. You probably should be running Thrust regardless of whether you play this deck or not. We have 1 copy of Triple Tactics Talent. No need to talk about what this does here. Really stupid card, that's why it's restricted. And 1 copy of That Grass Looks Greener. Grass is still really strong in a 60-card branded deck that also the Medius deck can the Artmage cards can abuse, as well as the Dracotail cards can abuse as well by having them in the graveyard, putting them back in my hand through the fusions and just recurring. And then for the last non-engine card, we're running 1 copy of Fusion Duplication. This is really just for Branded Fusion, but you can also use it for Fusion Deployment. So those are the 60 cards that we use for the Branded Draco Tail Medius Artmage deck. Let's go over the extra deck cards real quick. 1 Mirror Jade. We're running 2 copies of Albion the Branded Dragon. 1 copy of Rinbroom the Striking Dragon, 1 copy of Titaniclad, 1 copy of Albion the Sanctifier Dragon. If you've noticed, we are not running the lock. Sanctifier Dragon is such a stupidly good card to extend on your opponent's turn and set up important plays on your opponent's turn. Being able to bring back very important fusions that you use that are properly summoned by itself is very stellar, as well as the ability to be available when my opponent uses multiple Charmies or something like that against me to try to get a huge advantage off of my fusion plays. Just simply going into Albion might be I want that option, basically. Just because you're not running the lock doesn't mean you don't need to run Albion the Sanctifier Dragon. It doesn't immediately become useful. Anyone who says that, useless, I mean. Anyone who says otherwise, they're just wrong. 1 copy of Lubellion the Searing Dragon, which is a very important card in this, being able to just bring itself back or bring other monsters back to the extra deck, so I can use them again and fuse into another monster. So, and one in particular. We got one copy of Grand Guignol, the Dust Dragon. The only in-deck target for this is one copy of the Quem, which is all we really need with everything we have going on. And you know, when you use its special summon effect from the deck. We have two copies of Draco Tail Arthalion. This card is so stupid, guys. This card is the reason why you can run one of so many cards, because it's of its ability to just recur and double as an interruption at the same time. It's absurd. This card is just insanely stupid. If I could run 3, I would. I really, really would. This card is so ridiculous. The one copy of Dracotail Gulamel, which is just the other extra card you want to run. You pretty much have to run it with this in order to be able to alternate between the two fusions. This will pop a card because Dracotail effects happen in the graveyard, and it can take advantage of that. All these Dracotail fusions have the ability to resurrect themselves if 2 or more monsters go to the graveyard at the same time. Link 2s, fusion summons, all that jazz. Now for our very small Artmage package, we're running one copy of Artmage the Actorist. We only need this to come out once. If this stays on the board multiple turns, you probably have won the game. On Omni Negate on the field, Spell Trap Monster effect on the field. Very powerful effect. And if it gets destroyed, you get to special summon a Medius from the hand deck or banishment. With the ability, with cards like Dracotail Arthalion, to recur resources. Running one copy is more than enough. We also have the Succession in the deck as well. And then we run the one copy of Nerva, the Power Patron of Creation. That's a board wipe that's very easy to get through the Artmage engine. 3,300 attack, can't be destroyed while the field spell is up. And just having that on-field board wipe through this engine is the reason why I run it. It's absolutely absurd. Very powerful card, very easy to get into. And yeah, I love it. I love this card. We're running one copy of Chaos Star Source Dragon. We run enough dragons to justify running this as one of our main spell or trap busters in the extra deck. So I stick with that. And for our last and final extra deck monster, we're running one copy of Philia Regis. Because of the Dracotail engine attached to the branded fusion, the branded engine, we're able to get into this pretty consistently. And this gives us something that we don't have in the extra deck or in the main deck, which is a way to banish spells or traps, which, you know, from the field or graveyard, which is very important against cards like Yummy. So I left that in there because in the Yummy matchup, we're probably going to want to use this to take care of the field spell. There's going to be other things that you're going to want to be able to target in the graveyard that you're going to want to banish that gives them advantage once they're in the graveyard. So I think it's something that's really good in there. Now, in terms of what I would change, I would try to find a way, to be honest, to find a way to put Light and Darkness Dragonlord as well as a copy of Branded Banishment. That way my branded line can essentially go into 3 Omni Gates plus Mercurior and Mirror Jade. And then if I have a secondary engine attached to that, that's just way too much interruption for my opponent, to be honest. And what it lets me do is I can actually play it more confidently, that line more confidently, because cards like Forbidden Droplet, cards like Called by the Grave, they're much easier to deal with because we have cards like Dracotail Flame to essentially prevent them from interrupting that combo. It's very strong, and I love it so much. And now for the extra deck, for the side deck, pretty much keeping it simple here. We're running one copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, one copy of Dark Ruler No More, one copy of Evenly Matched, and for the rest, they're pretty much all monsters here. We're running 3 copies of Molcharmi Fulolos in the side deck. We're running 3 copies of Perulia in the side deck. We're also running 3 Droll and 3 Artifact Lancy. That's all the hand traps are in the side deck. I don't feel like dealing with the Canine Vanquish soul stuff. just getting free stuff off of my hand traps. Once I know what deck I'm playing with, I want to adjust my deck and use the appropriate hand traps or whatever I need to help assist non-engine, to assist with what I'm doing here. And because I'm using 3 engines that have their own in-engine way to deal with spells, traps, and monsters combined, I don't have to run hand trap. I feel very confident this deck can board break, and if just with engine alone. And if for some reason I need extra push, I have the hand traps in the side to help me get some extra cards with the Perulias, or if my opponent draws too many cards for their deck, then I can use the draw. So thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you watching the video. This came out a little long. Feel free to post a comment and let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. And with that being said, thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day.